come out of Shabbat. Very happy to see. Nothing major in the news. So we can focus on learning some Torah together. Get this week started off right. In today's daf, we're going to touch on some interesting subjects pertaining to women, including women's hair, which is sometimes a difficult a subject fraught with controversy. Even in the most Orthodox Jewish communities, there's quite a variety of opinions on how to handle this issue, and we will be touching on that today. Let me just finish getting here we go. Get everything in front of me so I can see comments as they come in. Okay. Do I have to allow something? Okay, the chat is okay. And who's in the house? Where are you in from? Deborah Hazelwood and Renee Bainville have joined. Hopefully I am not frozen here as my video is frozen on this monitor. I'm just going to do a little reload. How's everybody feeling? Are we feeling good? Are we optimistic? Are we keeping our spirits up in these difficult times? It's a challenge, and like any challenge, a worthy challenge. Okay. Very good. Arnold Albaum says Shavua Tov. Welcome to the program, Arnold. Who else is with us? Where are you tuning in from? It's always great to us to see which cities are in the house, which countries, which continents. All right, let's get started, and I'll try to keep an eye on it. Kim Waddell says hello from Panama City Beach, Florida. Ed Berg, I know you're in from Galloway, New Jersey. Jason Lipstein says refuah shlema for Iris Basdalia. Very good. Let's just take a moment, my friends, to pray for a refuah shlema for everyone who is sick, particularly of COVID, but also everybody who's sick. I mean, this is a terrible time to be sick. I know that there's a lot of issues with people who really need to go to the hospital or need to see a doctor and are staying away because they don't want to go during times of the plague, and there's health problems that have arisen because of that. So please God, for everyone that is in our classroom right now, who knows somebody who is sick, may they have a refuah shlema, complete and speedy recovery. And let's dedicate tonight's learning to Harav Chaim Menachem ben Leah, for his refuah shlema and the refuah shlema of all the loved ones of everyone who's in our classroom today. And let's say amen. Okay. And I'm seeing Michael Schnukal is in from Australia. Beautiful. Chris Carson from Long Beach. Matthew Schneera from Pittsburgh. Mary Grace Richardson from Jupiter, Florida. Sue Strauss from Chicago. Keith Feldman in the house saying Shavua Tov from Johannesburg, South Africa. My goodness, Keith, what time is it in South Africa? Is it like already next week? All right, where are we holding? And Ed Berg, a dear friend of the show, says, my next TC scan is scheduled for June 2nd after having completed 25 rounds of radiation. Ed, we should only hear good news. I know that you've been through the ringer with these treatments it's been a few years now. May your healing reach the finish line, as it were. May you get the complete bill of health. We're really praying for you all the time. And we should only hear good news about your refuah shlema, and we say amen. Okay, we're in Tractate Shabbos, the second volume of the Talmud. We're on Daf Samech Daled, that is page 64. We're in chapter 6, and today's discussion is on Mishnah 5. Here in chapter 6, we've been talking about with what may a person go out and with what may they not go out, meaning go outside off their private property on Shabbos. And we've sort of been alternating between matters pertaining to women and then men, and then women and then men. And today in chapter 5, in Mishnah number 5, we're back to matters pertaining to women. So we learn, usually these are phrased as what she may not go out. So this Mishnah starts by phrasing it as she may go out. She may go out into the public domain with hair braided into her hair. Right, so I guess this is a kind of hair extensions, right? So even in the ancient world, they had hair extensions, and it was permitted for a woman to braid other hair into her own hair. And we're told the specific cases, it may be her own hair, previous hair that was cut off and now braided into her living hair, or it may be the hair of another woman, or it may be the hair of an animal, from a horse's tail or a cow's tail. All of these are permitted. Presumably a woman doesn't want to go out in the public domain and then for some reason remove her hair extensions, and then she would come to carry them. So we're not concerned about that, and therefore the sages decreed that she may have these hair extensions. Any hair from any person is good, with one exception. And the exception is if the hair is way different than her own hair. And particularly they're talking about that a young woman may not go out with hair extensions braided into her hair of an elderly woman, right? So gray hair into a young woman's hair, or vice versa, a young woman's hair into an elderly woman's hair. And the explanation given is that because it's so different, it might have been like a little bit of a risky maneuver, as it were, for the woman. And then once she's out in the public domain, maybe somebody will laugh at her because her hair is so odd, and then she'll get embarrassed, and then she'll remove those hair extensions, and then she'll come to carry them in the public domain, violate the Torah prohibition on carrying on Shabbos, and then she would be liable to bring a sin offering. Then we come to the case of the wig. So here in the Mishnah, we learn that a woman may wear a wig or a woolen cap in the courtyard. So she can wear it indoors or in the courtyard of her home, but she can't go out into the public domain or into a courtyard that does not have an Erev. So now we're back into a situation, whoa, right? Whoa, this isn't quite right. We know that today, women certainly, right, religious Jewish women will wear wigs, not only every day, but on Shabbos, and go out walking in the public domain. Is it because of the Erev that it becomes possible, or is it something else? So the concern would be that for some reason she'd be out there in public and she would remove the wig and come to carry it, or perhaps not even on purpose, it would become detached, she couldn't put it back. That's the concern. So somewhere during the ancient time and the modern time, this obviously changed. If in the Talmudic times, the wig was restricted to the private courtyard of a home or indoors. So then we're going to have two little matters to discuss here. One is we learn here in the Talmud that not only do we know that there was a change since the Talmudic time to now, but here in the Mishnah, in the Gemara about this Mishnah, we learn that there was a change even from earlier in the Talmudic time to later. And this actually has to do, that earlier change has to do with menstruation. And menstruation is also going to come up in this Mishnah. So let's just finish the Mishnah and then we'll get back to talking about wigs. So in the Mishnah, it also says that a woman may go out with like a bundle of cloth, like a wad of cloth, in her sandal, in her ear, or attached to her otherwise because she's dealing with the flow of her menses. So that is permitted, and that is in the public domain, that's permitted. And she may also go out with now this is interesting practices from 2,000 years ago. She may have a peppercorn in her mouth, which will actually help prevent bad breath. I don't know if anyone's ever tried that or if it works, but apparently they believe then that if somebody has bad breath, they can go out with a peppercorn in their mouth and that will take care of it. Or a grain of salt may be kept in the mouth because it has healing properties. I guess when somebody has a bad tooth or a sore in the gums or something like that, So she may go out with those in the public domain, provided that she didn't insert the peppercorn or the grain of salt into her mouth when it was already Shabbos. She would have had to be carrying that stuff around and insert it in her mouth before Shabbos began. And finally, we learn in the Mishnah that a woman may go out with that according to Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, she may go out with a false tooth or a gold tooth in her mouth, but according to the rabbis, she may not. Again, that must have changed somewhere over the centuries, because I am not aware of any prohibition on wearing dentures or gold teeth or other stuff like that on Shabbos. So probably the state of dentistry was something different. And as we've discussed before, there's some laws that have changed, and the halacha is different now than 2,000 years ago. And that is why we keep seeing these examples, why we also have a phrase that we don't paskin halacha from the Gemara. Right? When we read rules the rabbis argue about a certain rule, and then at the end of the argument, let's say an Amora, a rabbi of the Talmudic period, concludes, and this is the law. We don't rely on that to tell us what the law is today. We would then go check Shulchan Aruch or more modern sources to see if there's been any kind of a modification during these millennia. Okay, so let's get back to the hair. Now, on this issue of the wig, it's very interesting. And who am I? I'm a man to be talking about women's hair. The first thing to understand about Jewish law and women's hair is that it is not simple. This is a complex body of law, and you will find different customs among different communities, and these customs vary widely. So, for example, in some ultra-Orthodox groups, Hasidic groups, the women wear wigs, and in fact, they wear beautiful wigs, right? And so it's almost like, what a treat. You don't have to worry about it if you're having a bad hair day or not, because you've got this wig that is like gorgeous, spectacular. You just put it right on and you look great. You didn't have to do any work. Other communities, Hasidic, ultra-Orthodox communities, not so different in terms of Jewish practice and surrounding how we pray and how we eat and all kinds of other things. But on this issue of the wig, some other communities, like I say, similar in many ways, will not use a wig. And they think that the wig is wrong and that the woman should cover her hair with a scarf or some other object. Why? What's going on there? What's the difference? To understand this in part, we have to understand where the requirement for a married woman to have her hair covered, that's the requirement in Orthodox practice, or Jewish law. A married woman should have her hair covered. But where does it come from? It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that when a woman becomes married, she should cover her hair. The requirement actually comes, we sort of back into it from the law surrounding the sota. So the sota is the married woman who is suspected of having an affair. It hasn't been proven, but she's suspected. And there's various conditions that have to be met for why she would have been suspected. She and her husband then go to Jerusalem, and they go through a procedure at the temple, at the Holy Temple when it stood, involving a priest. And then it's either going to prove that she was unfaithful, and then this trial, it's not a jury trial. She's going to drink some water that has dissolved into it a paper that had some verses from the Torah written on it. Plus, I also think some dirt from the floor of the temple compound. And then she drinks that water. If she's guilty, those waters will cause her stomach to distend, and then she'll die. But if she's innocent, she'll survive the trial, and then the husband and wife can be comfortable and go back together. And in fact, if she was previously barren, she's now going to be likely to conceive and have a baby. It's a very odd, not very odd, but unusual in many ways, surprising in many ways procedure. The point of mentioning it now is that at the beginning of that procedure that would happen to the sota at the temple, it says that the priest shall uncover her hair. And now there are two views on why the Torah says the priest will uncover her hair. One view is that it's simply factual. He has to uncover her hair because it's covered. And now part of this procedure at the temple involves her hair being free. So if her hair was covered, she's obviously married, because you'd have to be married to be suspected to be a sota. So then a married woman obviously has her hair covered. According to that view, her hair was covered simply because it was covered. So what you cover it with, is up to you, whether you cover it with a scarf or a wig or something else. According to the second view, which is somehow her hair needs to be uncovered now in a measure for measure proceeding that has to do with the fact that she earlier uncovered her hair, or is suspected of uncovering her hair for somebody who was not her husband. So according to that view, the reason women cover their hair has more to do with modesty than just the fact that they're prohibited to everyone except their husband. And therefore, according to that second view, someone might say, well, the thing that she covers her hair with shouldn't look like beautiful hair. It should look like something else. So that's kind of the two different views that might lead one to get to a wig or to not a wig. But it's very important to understand that it's not just subscribing to one philosophy or another. It's also that Orthodox Jews live in community. And so much of how a woman ends up in one camp or the other in terms of how she'll cover her hair or whether she'll cover her hair has to do with the tradition she received from her mom, from the community that she lives in, from the rabbi of that community, etc. There's many, many factors that go into it. That's kind of a little general talk about wigs today. Now let's go back to what we're doing as a discussion of this Mishnah. The Mishnah said that a woman may go out to the courtyard with a wig or a woolen cap. And the implication is that she cannot go into the public domain. So that was, in Talmudic times, she wouldn't go out into the public domain with the wig. So the sages also have a principle that something you're not supposed to wear in the public domain, you don't even wear it in the private domain. Why? Because you might forget and come to take it out into the public domain. You haven't violated the prohibition necessarily, this general prohibition on not wearing things privately that are prohibited publicly. That's more like wisdom. That's not an always type of principle. But even if you subscribe to that principle, they say in terms of the wig, it's okay to go in the courtyard, even in the courtyard, right? It's certainly inside the house and even in the courtyard, even though it's going to be prohibited in the public domain. And even though we have this principle that things that are prohibited in the public domain, you shouldn't wear in private either, lest you forget. So, why? Why is the women's wig or woolen cap in this category of we're going to create a leniency different than some other things that are prohibited in the public domain that we advise you don't do them in private either? And the reason is because a woman should be attractive to her husband. And to give support to this, they look at this change that had already happened in an earlier period, in an earlier Talmudic time. And that has to do with the fact that when a married woman is having her menses, her time of the month, so she and her husband are prohibited to each other. They can't touch each other, right? And that's why in traditional homes, they won't even have a king-size bed, right? Or they might have a king-size bed, but there's another bed, so that during the time of the month where they're prohibited to each other, they're not even sharing the same bed. So during that time of the month, when the husband and wife are prohibited to each other, in earlier Talmudic times, they had also decreed that the woman would not look too attractive. She wouldn't put on makeup, she wouldn't adorn herself with jewelry, and she wouldn't wear bright clothing. Presumably, they were doing the couple a favor. If she's not going to look too attractive, so they're not going to be so tempted to come together during the time that they're prohibited to each other, and they won't come to violate the biblical prohibition on touching each other when she is a niddah, right? When she is having her flow or she's counting the clean days after her flow, right? So the idea that she shouldn't look too pretty, she shouldn't wear jewelry, she shouldn't wear makeup, she shouldn't wear bright clothes, was to protect the couple from sort of becoming overwhelmed with desire and coming together during the prohibited time. Along came Rabbi Akiva, the great Rabbi Akiva, who, as far as God and Moses were concerned, could have been the greatest prophet in the history of the Jews. He was so wise and so Torah learned, even though he had a late start, that he was just, in many ways, the wisest sage who ever lived. Comes Rabbi Akiva, and he says they may not be permitted to touch each other during that time of the month, but she should remain beautiful, right? She should be able to do her best to appear beautiful so that she will remain attractive to her husband. It's for the health of the marriage that a wife likes to look beautiful for her husband. And so Rabbi Akiva removed that prohibition on wearing makeup, wearing jewelry, wearing bright clothes during her time that they're when the couple is prohibited to each other for the menses. And likewise, in terms of the wig, if, in some community, and then even today, there's discrepancies. Some communities, the women shave their hair, their natural hair, and just wear the wig or wear the scarf. And in other communities, they have beautiful hair. They just cover it with a hair covering, possibly with a wig. So if the woman feels like she needs the wig to look beautiful, the sages don't want to interfere with the way that she wants to look, to present herself to her husband. And so that's why, even though there's some objects which are prohibited for a man or woman to carry in the public domain, and therefore they shouldn't even carry them in the private domain, so they avoid forgetting and going outside, a wig is not in that category. If a woman feels comfortable wearing a wig or a woolen cap, whatever she likes, so that she should be beautiful to her husband, she should do that. But if it's a type of object that's going to cause a problem in the public domain where she might come to take it off because she's embarrassed, or either because she's embarrassed of it or she's proud of it, then that kind of object the sages will decree against going out there, right? So, and then she shouldn't do that in the public place either. But a wig, not in that category as far as the courtyard. But in that time, she shouldn't go out into the public domain with the wig, just as far as the courtyard. I guess they're concerned that even though if she feels that she needs a wig to look beautiful, she's not going to take her wig off. But I assume they were concerned that the wig might become detached in some way. And then, because it's an item of great personal value to her, she wouldn't leave it abandoned. If she couldn't reattach it for some reason, she might carry it and then violate the prohibition on carrying in the public domain. Yeah, and that's what I've got for us today. I would not be surprised if there are some questions on this subject, so let me check the comments. Okay, Miri Shalmi says Refuah Shlema. Cheryl Lanter has joined. Goldberg Eliyahu Yaakov says Shavua Tov. Cheryl is in from League City, Texas. Lindsay from Ohio. Lawrence from Queens. Judy Robert, my sister and I ruined so many of our mother's wigs. I would imagine you're saying that you were playing with them when you were kids and ruined them. I mean, I just don't know anything about wigs personally, but I know that you could spend a lot of money on a wig. So just like I wouldn't like my son playing with my nice hats, I imagine women don't want their daughters playing with their nice wigs. Ed Berg says, how about a man wearing a toupee? Well, great question. Great question. I wonder, I don't know what the halakha is on men and toupees. I guess the issue would be, first of all, there might be a prohibition like like putting on a wig is a woman's thing, and maybe men shouldn't use toupees for that reason. On the other hand, if that's not a concern, then if a man feels that he needs it for his dignity, it's probably allowed. Since today women are allowed to wear wigs in the public domain, perhaps men are allowed to wear toupees also. I'm not sure about that. Lindsay Adams says, thank you as always, Sal, and happy Mother's Day. Yes, yes. So perhaps in South Africa, Keith, it's already Mother's Day. So we wish all the moms a happy Mother's Day. That's going to be tomorrow, Sunday, here in the United States. Is it Mother's Day in other countries? I don't know. I suspect it is, but I'm not sure. Perhaps other countries have a different date for Mother's Day. But for everyone celebrating Mother's Day, may you have a sweet and happy Mother's Day, and may your children acknowledge how awesome you are to them. Okay, well, that is what I've got for us. Over on the YouTube side, I'm seeing Christine says shalom from Cleveland, and Deborah from Florida, Tahila Racer from New York City, Lynn from North Texas, Wanda Peretz from Beverlywood, and Wanda also says happy Mother's Day for tomorrow. Janice and Miriam say thanks and thank you, sending you all lots of love from the West Coast. And look forward to see you with God's help tomorrow, when we'll continue discussing other matters that a woman may use on Shabbos here in the 5th Mishnah of chapter 6. Tomorrow's page 65. All the best, my holy brothers and sisters.